afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 16 of the AfriCAN Do podcast. And today it's my great pleasure to have Muthoni DQ, co-founder of GoodTimes Africa, brand owner of the now regionally famous, internationally famous Blankets and Wine. And it's a great pleasure to have Muthoni here. I've watched Blankets and Wine fast as a silent observer in the background in my early days when I was at the carnival. And to see it grow into one of the premier festivals in our market is something that fills me with great joy. So Muthoni, welcome.
Woo-hoo-hoo. Thanks. I'm
Excellent.
happy to be here.
So I don't know if I've ever told you where I first heard about blankets.
No.
I was working at the carnival and Tom Awondo of Live Gigs, who's a very good friend.
Yeah.
Whenever we're setting up for functions, we used to talk a lot. And Tom comes to me and tells me, there's a young lady who's doing something. Tunamsaidia na sound hivi kidogo, something in Ridgeways. I think it was somewhere in Ridgeways. Yeah. And she says, it's called Blankets and Wine. It's a festival. It's just easy. And it's small now, but I think it will be something big. Yeah. And I was reflecting on that yesterday in preparation for this. Yeah. Maybe we can start there.
Yeah.
So you're a creative. You've been in the art space. You're a musician.
Yeah.
But what gave birth to Blankets and Wine? Where did it start from?
Yeah. So Blankets is actually me trying to solve my own problem, which is a place to platform myself. So I'm a musician. That's my primary profession.
Yes.
I sing, I rap, I play a set of drums. And I still love music, which is cool. Mm. But when I started to release work, I kind of ran into a sentiment that the work was too alternative. It wasn't linear enough. It didn't fit into the spaces that existed then. It was a very pop-driven market.
Okay.
And then there was another strain of music at that time, which was Afrofusion, which was kind of, so think Susanna Owiyo.
Yes.
And
Dan.
so, yeah. And that music was very outward facing. It was very like European to a circuit music. Mm-hmm. So there really wasn't space for somebody who was kind of experimenting with versions of pop, hip hop, fusion of English, Swahili, kind of spoken word. It's kind of like the genre bending. There really wasn't a lot of space for that. And so I had to make space for myself. And I had a gig that I was playing at a club in Westlands. And then it was time to we got to the point where it's either you find a new venue or you stop being in music because the gig stopped working at the venue we were in.
Okay.
And I wasn't ready to stop music. So I wanted to find another venue. And then, in a conversation with my friends, they're like, yeah, but if you move from one club to another club, you're really just kind of kicking the can down the road.
Yes.
All the clubs kind of have the same logic and same approach. Mm-hmm. So maybe you want to just find a space that you can define for yourself, like pretty much build your own space, your own club, your own venue. And a lady who I know had come and watched me when I was performing at the Alliance Française, and she's like, hey, I have this outdoor space I'm starting. If you ever want some help or if you ever want to utilize for something.
Where is the outdoor space?
At Tayana, that was in Ridgeways.
Okay.
And she was really a champion for the work that I was doing then.
Okay.
And she had this outdoor space that was new.
Yeah.
So it was very mutually helpful. I needed a space to try stuff. She needed footfall. So we got together.
That she has, and she wants to
publicize it. And just for people to know about it.
Okay.
And we have a gig. At that time, I was like, we can do a show. So I spoke with my friends, and we kind of, in that discussion, were like, actually, pretty much everything you're doing, just do the opposite. Instead of trying to do a gig at a venue that's like close by, go somewhere a little bit out of the way, which means people have to choose you, and then it's going to be an experience coming to you. Then design an experience from scratch. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What do people see? What do people engage with? And it was like, so actually I'm pivoting out of trying to make a concert series for myself and really designing a festival experience that includes me and others.
Yes.
And it was also around the same time, there was other, I had contemporaries, I had peers, Just a Band, I had Sauti Soul. There was a bunch of us who were looking to make different work. Yeah. I also knew this guy is like the Unasis, the Susannas, people who are really on European touring circuit, didn't have a lot of opportunities to play
Locally.
at home. So I was like, okay, the Misfits and the Afrofusion guys, we can be
Let's
together.
put them all together.
And everyone can bring their 50 fans and let's see where it goes.
Okay. So you start now.
Then we start.
So you have a venue and you have an idea.
Yeah.
Your idea is a bit contrarian because it's driven from what the market was not providing for you.
Yes.
So how do the first few days to starting and the first concert, how does that look like? How is that journey?
Yeah. So going in, okay, first I had a lot of conviction around this idea. If for nothing else, my homies were like, yes, we're coming. So I was like, okay, my friends are coming. And if everybody comes,
minimum.
I was like, if everyone comes with like one other homie, we'll be 100 guys, right? It's a Sunday, it's day drinking, it's outdoor. There's very few ways this can go wrong. You know, like I couldn't, there was no version. I'm like, what? Let's even say the stage collapses. You're still there with your friends and you have your drinks, you have your picnic. You're in a great environment. So, you know, I felt like experientially the thing was still going to work. But there was a lot of pushback when I kind of reached out because I decided we're doing it and then I did the research afterwards. It's like the ball is in motion.
You made the decision fast?
Yeah, we're moving now. I'm just like, you know.
So where's the pushback coming from?
The pushback is coming from, you know, like it's better to do a show on a Saturday. You know, Saturday night is when people do shows. Sunday, there's church guys. Then the other one was, but it's 1,000 bob. We don't know the names. There are no names. And you're charging like 1,000 bob. Like, how? Those two were really, and then the third one, because Kiambu Road didn't look the way Kiambu Road looks now.
It was...
It was kind of struggle. It was the old Kiambu Road. Previously on Kiambu Road.
Yeah.
So then there was also that like...
Where are you taking us?
Yeah. Where the heck is this place? Where are we going? And it was really interesting, that sentiment. And then there was another sentiment, which was kind of like, maybe. You know, it wasn't a strong yes, but it was kind of like, maybe.
And all this is before the concert has happened.
Yeah,
so you're getting now your feedback to guys, okay?
Yeah, this is what I've put in my letter with my boss where I was working.
Yes.
So I'm moving. This is what's happening.
What? You're moving? It's a job. That's the job now.
Job imeisha sasa. Ninaanza entrepreneurship. So that was... It was very mixed bag in that way. But also I didn't have a lot of time to really think about what people were saying because doing a gig is a whole thing.
True.
Like the artists who were originally booked, I had to do the pitch. It was not an automatic booking like now when the booking agent calls and
of course.
So I had to pitch.
You're selling two ways.
Yes,
you're selling to the artist, but you're also selling to the customer. Yes.
So I had to sell to the artists. I had a lot of strong support from the artists right from the beginning. Everybody was down to do something different. And also there weren't the opportunities. So there's no real reason to turn down this opportunity. You know, worst case scenario, you do it and you don't like it, you never do it again. But you're not busy. It's Sunday. You're not busy. So why not? So that kind of felt good that the artists were supportive.
You're not alone in this. Yeah.
And then now I had to, convince the first people who do sound, staging. I used to produce a gig for myself. Now I was producing for others. So just that learning curve of thinking about others, kind of thinking around like soundtrack times, their hospitality, exactly, all those other things. But it wasn't new. For one thing, I had already toured internationally by the time I was starting Blankets. I had been on a project, Bring the Noise, a British Council-sponsored project.
Okay.
We'd spent like 2 weeks in residency in London, and then we had performed to audiences who didn't know who we were at all. And that experience actually really had encouraged me that, people like music and people like to discover things. And as long as somebody is able to vouch for you. So whether it's a venue, if you're performing at a venue and it has regulars and they just trust the programming at the venue, or if it's somebody who is marketing you in front of users, I felt like people would come. I had that experience.
Okay.
So honestly, I didn't think nobody would come.
Okay.
I thought guys would come. the other thing also is then because I'd been in this environment and then I'd been running my own show for a year and something, I already knew around tech setup. I used to set up my own tech and I knew about tech setup. So I wasn't really surprised by that. I knew what it cost for tech to set up. I knew about artist hospitality. I'd been a recipient of that. I'd offer hospitality also to my band when we were performing. So it wasn't new. It was a scale that was kind of just bigger. And I was like, oh my God, it's bigger. It's bigger. And then it's like, you're everything. Yes, you're making the poster.
But you're also going to perform.
And you're also in your own rehearsals. And so it was very exhausting.
And how are you a recurring theme on this podcast has always been Kenyan entrepreneurs and funding.
Yeah.
So how are you funding this?
Yeah. So this was 100% from my savings.
Pocket.
Yeah.
Your savings.
I was like, exactly.
And hoping the gate brings
and I was like,
something.
as long as it all comes back.
Yeah.
So again, it wasn't new for me because I was running a night, like I was saying, at Westlands.
Okay.
And that was the model. I'd pre-finance and then I'd make it back at gate. And then I had 20% of the F&B.
Okay.
So it wasn't new to me. I was comfortable with that process of like weka pesa ingine itarudi.
It was not all unknown.
It was not all unknown. I wasn't operating unknowns. What really was new for me was the scale.
Okay.
And kind of like, you have to think about 4 bands coming for soundcheck as opposed to just yourself. And you have to think about like X number of people now in the setup crew because they have to rig a stage and they have to rig lighting. And whereas in the club venue, the things were already there. So I just needed to bring kind of my backline, the instruments that I'm using. So that was different. The scale was different. And then everything goes through me. I'm the one who has the tickets. So I have to hand over the tickets. I have to hand over the towels for artists. That was surprising, like how much of me was needed to go around and the recognition for like, okay, you're going to need to build a team really quick because it's not sustainable. Like if I'm on stage singing and somebody needs something now, what should they do in the meantime? And I must say, we also had some fortune early because then the lady where I was doing the show at Tayana, the owner of Tayana, was friends or relatives with the PC then at Capitol.
Okay.
And so she pitched her this idea and, they were like, yeah, we're down to support. We'll give you like some advertising.
Okay.
So the very first gig we did, we were on Capitol.
Free of charge.
Yeah, for free.
Yeah.
And I think I was going home and I had myself on the radio in the mat, like advertising. And that's when it became real for me. And then there I really died because I'm like, oh my God.
It's real.
Now I can't take it back.
People are coming.
Guys are coming. And that was cool. We had 120 folks.
So now let's talk about that fast.
Yeah.
That fast blankets and wine. Yeah. So you've gone through the hustle and bustle.
Yeah.
You've figured that sound out. You've scaled it up but now it's day one.
Yeah.
How's that?
It was, that's a degree of anxiety.
Really?
Yeah. I really believe the beginning stages of blankets gave me ulcers. Yeah. It was insane.
Yes.
It was insane. Like first the suspense, because also there was nothing like pre-ticketing now.
Okay.
In fact, I would like to say at this point, we are the ones who brought ticketing. Ticket Sasa approached us and we were the first, we were client zero of Ticket Sasa.
Really?
And we're the ones who taught the market, like you can buy your ticket in advance. You can trust this online platform. The ticket is real. When you bring it to the door, it's a real ticket.
Yes.
So that time there's no pre-ticketing. So you really don't know who is coming until they come. You don't know what time they're going to come when they eventually get there. So I'm just there, stressed, me and the ticketing
And what was that kickoff time? It started at
2 p.m.
2 p.m.
We've always been,
So you're
we've always
waiting.
starting at 2 p.m. So you're just waiting. And then some people come in actually
guys come
at 2
Kenyan
p.m.
style or?
No, in fact, quite a number of people really came on time. Because this was novel. There was something also about blankets, the preposition, and that remains to date. The fundamental preposition, once it's put in front of you for consideration, it's not a long thing. It's kind of like, do you like music?
Yes.
Would you like to hear something that you know, maybe something you don't know? It's in the afternoon, you're with your friends, you're having drinks.
Easy. Yeah.
It's easy. It's good vibes. People look good. It's in a dope location. It's Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
You are probably just lazing around on your couch. So now you just come and hang out with your pals.
Yeah.
And then by 8 p.m. you're home. So the fundamental preposition is not that complicated, right? Once it's put in front of your consideration. That part is not hard. So people came on time. And then,
you said you got how many people?
Yeah, 120. Our stage was just there dancing. It was there probably, it was before we'd found like in a Raj, and then after Raj,
live gigs.
Live gigs.
Yeah.
So our original supplier, the stage was just there dancing. I was like, wow, I really pray no one gets electrocuted.
The thing didn't fall down.
The thing didn't fall down and we're not electrocuted.
Yeah.
It was so struggle.
Yes.
But
you pulled it off.
Start from somewhere, we pulled it off. And the basics were like, wow, that was so great. We didn't know any of those folks.
Yeah.
That was such an enjoyable show.
And let's talk a bit about the name.
Yeah.
So originally, if I recall right, it was blankets and wine.
Yeah.
You encourage people to come
Bring
with
your
their blanket and your wine.
Yeah.
And you sit down and you lay your blanket on the grass and you enjoy
Picnic
that.
style.
Is that what happened?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the original value proposition. Family friendly, picnic style festival. Bring your date, bring your pals, bring your mom, bring your pet. Enjoy. The music is on us. You bring the vibes. We co-create this experience together.
So you do the first one and you
then we make our money back and we make our money back and we are like left with like 20K. So we're able to pay like for some toiletries, whatever. And then, we have like a 15K to flip on the next gig. That was 2008.
2008.
Yeah, November 2008 was the first Blankets and Wine.
Okay, yes, that makes sense. Okay, so 2008, you pull it off. And then what? When do you, how do you then determine when am I going to be doing this?
Exactly. Yeah. So first, I was already used to a monthly cadence.
Yes.
So I thought the monthly cadence made sense with the previous gig.
Yes.
So I just rolled that over.
Okay.
I didn't know what I was signing up for. Because I thought it's just like, say I already know how to do monthly.
Yes.
I didn't know what it now means when it's monthly and it's not just you and there's multiple
artists.
There's multiple artists. You have to think about programming in advance and the rat race. Yeah. So the next gig, December, also worked out. And I remember it was the same day Kajibogwa had a big show and he had like billboards. Now Capital are like, hey, sorry, now if you want ads, you have to pay. And we're like, as guys have no money
more
to pay.
freebies here. Yeah.
So we couldn't pay for that. And it was just our hope that if you came, you liked it enough to come again. And that's exactly what happened. The people who came enjoyed it enough to come again. And for the first year, honestly, it was all just word of mouth. It's like you come, you like it.
You couldn't afford any ads.
Nothing. We didn't even think, and to be honest, we didn't even know how to really frame the ads, Like that initial radio run was really helpful because they helped us engineer the language, but kind of going month on month, we, because it's a lot of these artists were playing in small communities. So you don't necessarily, these communities were not necessarily cross-pollinating each other. So you don't necessarily know who these artists are. So we are really selling this idea of come discover, which is almost contrarian to the way the market was consuming at that time, which is we go for things we know.
Yes.
We champion a champion.
Yes.
we don't build a champion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a little bit the Kenyan market to be honest. But there's been some huge growth.
Yes.
It's a completely different thing now. So when the second one pulled off, then I was like, okay, now game on. Now I'm sure we can. Now I'm here. Now this is it. I took January off and I really feel like I dreamed a big dream and I feel like I really downloaded. I was given the vision. This is the way it can look. This is how you can solve for Africa. This is what this live ecosystem looks like. This is how this gig can be useful to like really circulate an economy around artists.
Yeah.
This is your wish list. So I just kind of built a big vision. And then from then it was just like game on. Still, there were never any big leaps.
Okay.
Blankets was always just
organic.
Kidogo, organic. You guys come. One day someone comes from the ticketing and says, hey, we've sold out our tickets. And I'm like, what? Now those are like 350 tickets. Now you've sold out, which we didn't even know we would reach a sellout point, I really feel like I learned early, like...
This is like when? 3, 4, 5? Or?
Yeah, maybe by the time we were hitting March.
Okay.
March of the 2009 is when
so
I think we had our first, the fourth one. We had a sellout. Then also there's some things that... like by the time we hit April of 2009, we're like, yeah, you guys, we should do blankets in Diani. Yeah, let's do blankets in Diani.
Yeah. This time,
it's just me and my homies who are like kind of my committee.
Yeah,
bolder, audacious. And also I want to say like, ilo jinga, you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So since you guys normally go to Costo for Easter, you
Find
and the homies. So we just go.
Yeah,
now since we're already going, so we just take blankets. I'm like, yes, let's just take blankets.
So blankets out of town.
Out of town.
Yeah.
And it's in Diani. Yeah. And it sounds like such an amazing idea. And on some levels it is, but on some levels it's incredibly insane because it's like there's artists logistics, you know, how the heck are you going to...
Sound logistics. Yeah.
Sound logistics, artist logistics, accommodations, transporting. Oh my God, really. The beginnings of blankets.
And so you did that.
Yeah,
that was April.
Yeah, so because we've already announced.
How was that now?
That was so cool.
So you did what? You moved equipment.
So we moved equipment. That time we were working with Raj. So they moved equipment to Diani and they moved engineers by road. We moved artists by bus. I think like Kaz did scouting for us on the coast. I think she was living there then. Then like Grace Msalame, who was our MC, she was in charge of like get the artists to the place.
Yeah.
We'd found some hotels. The gig was at 40 Thieves. They were like, yeah, sure, come and do your festival here. And then they were like, oh, you must come here every year and do this festival.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because then it's like nothing was happening in Diani. So they advertised for us on the strip. Diani then looked quite different from now.
Yes.
So people of the strip came and they're like, can you come every month? And we're like, never. You're never seeing us again. Of course, the next year and for the next 3 years in a row, we were there. It was really fun. It was a fun project. There was an element of uncharted waters and you have no data set.
Was it a profitable project?
Yeah.
It was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, blankets broke even from the beginning.
You went to Diani, you still managed to crack it and make money.
We still
was it 1,000 bob or how?
I can't remember how much. I think we charged a little bit more for Diani. And maybe we didn't make money. Maybe we just broke even at Diani.
Yes. But some key learnings.
Yeah, and also because then there was all these guys. Because the next year, I remember we had a great delegation, a great number of folks who lived on the North Coast who then took the ferry to the South Coast for blankets.
Yes.
So
it became an annual.
Worked out.
Blankets in Diani became an annual
exactly.
affair.
Yeah, around April we did that for like 3 or 4 years in a row, and then we were like, "Hey, bro, the suspense is gonna kill us." And also by that time, now we had a strong takeoff in Nairobi, and it was more useful for us to start thinking about what could a regional development look like than kind of our fun annual migration to the coast.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so when do you outgrow your first location?
At the end of 2009.
And where do you move to?
Yeah, at the end of 2009. In fact, at the end of 2009, because the next time we advertised on radio, and now that we had headliners.
That's your own cash now. You're still paying.
Now that we had some cash to pay. We made a deal. We had an arrangement. But yeah, we paid for the time. And now that one we had like 600 something guys. Now it's like, hey, it's unsustainable at Tayana. Now we have to move. Now it's like a thing.
Yes.
So then we moved to Hillcrest. Yes, in Karen. Langata Road in Karen.
Yes, yeah.
They had a great field and they had a really great marketing manager at the time, Tiki. She was very pro music and she's like, yeah, you can do this.
Yes.
Of course, some stringent conditions around, the school environment, making sure you've cleared your trash, before parents drop off the next day. So there was quite a lot of post-event work that we had to do to get the venue.
Yes.
But Hillcrest was fantastic.
As a location.
Fantastic location. And we grew at Hillcrest. So there's some folks, moving to Hillcrest taught me, that was my first lesson in attrition, right? Like you'll always lose some people.
Agreed.
So you always have to be in pipeline development because then there's just folks, I've moved from Nairobi or I can't come, I'm sick, whatever. It's now too far. I used to come because it was convenient. Now you're
the other
across town,
and of
course,
who are guys of Kiambu and
exactly. Now you're telling me to cross Karen. And please, it's pre-super highways. It's pre-highways. Bypasses and things. Like it was a long thing to move from Kiambu Road to go to Karen. So then now we had to build a new a community in Karen and, Ngong Road.
So the first one in Karen, did you still attract decent numbers?
Decent.
Yeah.
There was a slight dip.
Yeah.
And then we rebuilt in a couple of months.
Okay.
The other thing that was good for us is the monthly, because monthly created stickiness.
Yes.
So then you didn't need to think about the date. You just know it's the first Sunday. If it's the first Sunday of the month, there's blankets.
It was always the first Sunday
of the month.
Yeah.
There's blankets.
So 12 blankets a year? Or 11?
10. We do 10 because I think we'd skip May because of rain.
Of the rain,
and there's another one we often skipped. I'm trying to remember which one. But we had August. That July, August. So either July, August, because of intense rain, cold.
Okay.
So those are the two we'd skip.
So maybe we park the bus about the blankets itself.
Yeah.
And you have been party to this ecosystem, emerging ecosystem of festivals in the Kenyan context for a long time.
Yeah.
Because, 2008 to date.
Yeah.
We're talking
16 years in.
16 years,
16
so
years.
you've literally watched the industry grow. And as a result of you watching the industry grow, participating in it, you know it better than most. Yeah. Where are the gaps? And the opportunities?
First, I think we have a real infrastructure problem. We need fit for purpose spaces.
Yes.
And maybe that's something that the government can really lean into. You have a space like Nyayo Stadium that should be an automatic venue. Anybody who wants to do a large-scale gig should use Nyayo Stadium.
Yes.
But it's not easy to use Nyayo Stadium. Some of it is the condition of the facilities. Some of it is just the lack of imagination from the management, the stadium manager of that facility. And some of it is just, users. So really, if you think about that as a space that's going to be used often for lots and lots of things, there should be some cooperation with the city to think around traffic management on those roads and really how to think about, because it's at a triangle of 3 roads. So it's really to think around
how we're going to move people in and out of this place.
But that's as close to a fit for purpose venue as we have. We have
it's not used.
Yeah, we did produce an event as GoodTimes. We produced an event for Sport Pesa there some years ago. And it was a really dope experience from the production side, kind of just seeing, because stadiums come with lots of things, spaces.
Where did
so
you have
you
the
can
stage,
put
curiously, in your stadium?
We used half the field.
Okay. So you had the stage in the middle.
So the stage was in the middle, and then we did, artist hospitality and stuff at the back
of the stage.
Yeah. And it was really,
guys
then artists,
sat,
exactly.
all the way to the...
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. It's really cool.
It works,
producing in a stadium is really cool. There's lots of storage. Stadiums generally come with lighting and toilets and security, and there's parking, so it's really allows you to move to the next level. You're not solving some very basic things. You're not solving a toilet problem.
Yes.
You can take that energy and think, hey, where should VIPs sit and how do you give a VIP experience? So I think that's a major thing, fit for purpose infrastructure venues.
Yeah.
I also see that there's lots of folks who are now starting to respond to that. And I have a lot of respect for the house scene has actually birthed some really fit for purpose venues, places like Coda or Muse.
Yes.
Even the repurposing of a tiny venue like the Mist, Temple, you can see the house scene really has some really good fit for purpose venues. The question is how much scale they can absorb.
The house music scene.
Yeah, house music scene has a lot of those. We're seeing other spaces now like Mass House or Red Room that are seeking to address these spaces for live music sort of presentation. So I feel encouraged. And the other thing that's kind of interesting now is, unlike say, when it was the carnivores and them kind of venues, which are still incredible venues, by the way. Now these venues are owned by industry people. It's DJs and musicians who own them.
Yeah.
So the thinking is
behind
really
how they lay out
how they lay out, how they're resourcing those spaces. They're thinking like performers, and they're thinking in terms of entertainment first, and not kind of food and entertainment. They're thinking like presentation of work. So I think it's really encouraging. And I think we're going to see more. I think that the space Good Times is going to take is really spaces that scale. Because then you do want that 10,000 capacity space that can do indoor, outdoor.
Yes.
So that, I don't know, when, Nyashinsky says he's doing his Nation City, he can drive that number.
Yeah.
He has a space and he's not also in basics of tents to cover people, bring toilets,
so there's a
lighting for parking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there is now, we've reached that level where the artists in the scene have those numbers and can drive those numbers and fairly
decent.
And
regularly.
also, fairly regularly.
And the
So we need those
market
spaces.
is different. We had June Gashui on the podcast.
Right.
And one of the things we discussed is how our concert and festival has a very strong build-up, breakdown culture. Because of exactly what you say.
Yeah.
There are no locations. So everyone, I have to come with the toilets. I have to come with tents.
Yeah.
Is it going to rain?
Yeah.
And then I remember in my early days in the carnival, we used to have the Megadome thing.
Right.
Oh, and it's only KVM who had that one tent.
Exactly.
And it's cost. And when you add it, you just slap that thing into the line. You're like, whoa.
It fundamentally changes the budget.
Man, yeah.
So your ticket prices have changed.
Exactly. Yeah.
Pretty much everything has to change. So I really think that that's one
for
major
purpose
thing.
venues,
Fit for purpose venues.
What are you seeing from the artist side? Because again, that's another journey you've walked. Where you've seen. So what are you seeing on that side?
I think a thing that for me is really missing, and I think that there's an opportunity there, is there's still too few female voices at top line and sort of midline level. And they're there. The volume of work, substantive, incredible work. Actually, some of Kenya's best streaming music are not our girls, Akina Barbara Wagoi.
Yes.
Millions and millions of streams.
Yes.
But they're just not in the circuit.
Yes.
They're just not in the circuit.
And why is that?
So, I don't know.
They're not
we
there,
are not in the circuit.
Okay.
The festival is not in the circuit. What I mean by the circuit is what I love about Nairobi, somewhat Kenya, but mostly Nairobi, is in a week, there's several places where there's live music being programmed. The District Place, Gecko, like I said, Coda Muse, there is stuff.
Yes.
Every day of the week, you can catch some music somewhere being played. And I think that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So I don't know why we don't have as many of these women in the circuit. And I think that for me is something that we really want to, that's a big opportunity, something that we really want to address. And then I think there is something to be said on more speciality things. And I really feel this as a consumer. Not everything needs to be a festival.
Yes.
Not everything needs to be in a field for 3,000 guys.
Can be small.
There are actually things that should literally be for 100 people. And that's the best way to enjoy those things. And they should be in a small room and it should have like incredible intimacy. And it can be a very high value ticket. And it can also just be a mid-tier ticket. It doesn't... So I think that idea of speciality things, speciality things, I think that's also another space, and also not everything has to be a concert, maybe it should be a party as opposed to a concert, Tell
us the difference.
So, I think that, and especially in this world of discovery,
yes,
you want to lower the barrier for me who is to discover, right? So maybe it's easier to maybe pitch me a themed party, right? Like an audio theme.
Yes.
Offer me a playlist so that I can know what I'm coming for. And then your cost as the party producer, now you don't need to be programming no artists, so you don't need to be thinking about artist fees and, whatever. You just need to think about DJs and playlists.
Yes.
So that me who is coming for the party, that can be my first experience of this music. And let me be the one to ask for, can I now watch that artist live, right? Because cost of a concert and cost of a party are different. And so not everything needs to be a concert. Maybe you want to first build a sound and a community of people who want to discover, and then you can upsell those people to a concert experience, and then you can upsell that concert experience into a festival experience. You see? So there's space. It doesn't have to be this one big thing right from the jump. And I think there's space for those like sort of specialty. And I'm seeing a little bit like, people who collect like vinyl. Vinyl is back.
Yes.
Vinyl collectors tend to be like really people with strong music taste.
Yes.
So a vinyl collection party play with a playlist where we are saying, hey, we want you guys to discover all these women making Kenyan R&B. And then it's like, oh, do you like that? Now can we get together and have two of them sing to us at the next party? So we've covered infrastructure, but most of it was physical infrastructure and how that has evolved. We have covered the artists and the music and how that's evolving. Let's speak a bit about the sound. Sound, lighting, stage. How is that space looking? You've seen it over 16 years evolve. What is there? Do you feel it's saturated? Is there still room for better equipment? Or how does that space sit? So first I must say, also having worked in the region, we're really spoiled in Nairobi. We've always had good sound and good lighting options in Nairobi. We've always had it. Now your money will determine how much access you have
to it. Yeah.
But the gear is here. And there are technicians in the region. But there are places where we are really lagging behind. Like light engineering, we are lagging behind. Like lighting is a language. So there's a lot of gear, but there's not a lot of
interpretation of that gear.
Exactly.
Okay.
So enter the work we do with our incubator, because then in another life, I also ran Perform Music Incubator, which we designed specifically for skilling purposes, skilling and upskilling, capacity building, because the industry can't just be musicians. Musicians need managers, publicists, event producers, sound engineers, light engineers. So where is the school in Kenya you can go and say, hi, I want to learn how to be an artist manager?
So you develop that from a need?
So we developed that from a need. My own gaps, the industry gaps, working at the festival and seeing the gaps, it's like, these are really great artists. Why are we having such a difficulty in interfacing? And it's like, because you're just not frameworked. You just don't have this support system that should speak to us in the way that the festival is speaking to you, So we're like, just build a school. So that's what Perform Music Incubator is. And we're actually currently running. So
where is this? Where is it found?
So we run training. Right now we've been training from Shalom. And we're actually going countrywide.
Nice.
We are under a project called Sanara. MasterCard Foundation put together a project and got in different partners. And we're part of that project. And so we will train in Nairobi, Kisumu, Turkana.
How many people
Mombasa.
are training?
So in total, we will have trained 1,600 by the time we're done with this loop.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's in what? In
sound engineering, light engineering, artist management, artist publicity, event production, and the artists themselves, whether they are musicians or whether they are the music producer, so that it has to be an industry. We all just have to level up.
Creative economy is alive, man. Creative economy is alive and well.
It's a whole thing.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So what I can say is the house music side, I really give a lot of credit there, because house music is necessarily an audiovisual experience. Like at its zenith, when we grew up, the things that we're seeing, whether it's Ultra Music Festival or, all these things that were abroad, the way we understood house music is it comes with a very stylized stage.
Yes.
And then the lighting is part of the music. It's part of the driver of the emotion, because it's just, otherwise it's just, beats.
Yes.
For hours on end.
Yes.
So right from the beginning here, the adoption of those things, when I'm thinking about like Earth Dance or the 6 a.m. parties, they were always like pushing the idea of what does the lighting look like? What does the sound look like? And that's only gone growing and growing. So like I was saying, spaces like, Coda or Muse, you'll see some incredible complex parties, incredible light design.
Yeah.
And so some of that is already happening. And so it's actually us guys on the live music side who have to kind of borrow
So
this
house music
language.
space, for someone like me who's now getting along in years, yeah.
Don't accept. Just get along in years, but usiachwe na wakati.
See you go enjoy, man.
Kuwa mzee lakini usiachwe na wakati bwana.
Sasa, would tell me. So, because a lot of the things that you're mentioning, me, I'm completely clueless.
Yeah.
I've not heard of those house festivals that you're talking about. So, like now, where would something like Beneath the Baobab fit? Is that
absolutely Beneath the Baobabs fits in that ecosystem.
So I'm not too badly off.
You're not too badly off.
Sawa.
And actually, Beneath the Baobabs have like some fundamental advantages because then they have a very long partnership on the venue that they are in. So they've pretty much designed their venue in their image and likeness.
Yes.
And they have they're not going to be kicked out anytime soon. Right? So it's happening, folks like Gondwana who have been running, a party series and like the festivals, even collaborating with the South African festival and bringing it here.
Yeah.
It's really a great space. And they are much more, I would say, advanced in terms of like, to your point earlier around lighting. The live sound, we are doing quite well as far as engineering is concerned. There's much more of that.
The lighting guys have to catch up with the sound guys.
The lighting guys have to catch up with the sound guys. But it's also because the sound guys are part of this circuit. You see what I was talking about?
They're constantly doing the rounds.
They're constantly in the gig circuit, whether they're at, The Alchemist or the NSK. There's something you're always working on the board. These artists that you're attached to, your artists are touring or they're in high demand, so they're playing gigs.
Yes.
So the sound side, I feel like we're doing better. It's the lighting side that now has to catch up. And lighting for live is, there's the original investment, which is you have to have the lighting rig. And this is why it hasn't really developed. Because a lot of the owners of capital haven't been open to developing their personnel.
Yes.
It has taken a perform to come in and say, okay, now give me your personnel I trained for you. Right?
In order to execute this.
So that you can execute, because a lot of the demand for lighting is really the corporates.
Okay.
Right? For launches, etc. Right?
Anniversaries and stuff like that. Yeah.
So there hasn't been a strong demand coming out of the music industry to say, hey, we need leveled up lighting engineers. It's not enough to just kind of set up for me all these lights. What is the language? How come when I watch a Beyonce show or an Usher show,
I don't see.
How come the lights are part of the experience?
Yes.
They're part of the storytelling. How come we don't see that? So now we are asking those questions, and by delivering the training, I really think the landscape is going to look significantly different in like another 3 years.
You can sit down with someone. I see you. I see you every day or every other day. And then I don't know all this. And there's so much going on. It's not just blankets and wine, but there's so much going on in your world. So we've talked about, what about the customer? Let's come to the customer.
Hey, the customer.
How is By the way, I had really, really, really good things about December's blankets and wine. I mean, the kind of feedback that I was getting from friends, my nieces, my nephews.
Nice.
I mean, we didn't make it because we were traveling the next day. But congratulations on that.
You.
How is the customer? You have seen from 120 at your first show 16 years ago to now, where you're talking about big numbers. I think you did what? 10K plus? Yeah. So that's quite a 16 years,
something.
But credit for staying
so slow.
But credit for staying the path, So what does that look like? Now, what have you seen? How has the customer evolved?
Yeah. So first, I must say, it's been really joyful to first transition folks out of attendees into a community. That's been a really important thing. Then I think as more music platforms have grown, music consumption has really grown. It's taken off. So the Spotifys, the Apple Music, the YouTubes, the Mdundos, the Boomplays, folks are streaming music. And so people know music. And like, it's really cool designing programming for people who know music. You know what I mean? You're not... Still hard sell kila siku.
Yes, it's an informed clientele.
It's an informed, there's much when we put out playlists and we're like, oh, discover this, people actually listen to the playlist and discover and then they tell us who they want. And so I think that's been something that's been really cool. The other thing I think we've seen with this client is the music is their reason to come to Blankets. And this is, I mean, it was there from the beginning. Now I guess it just becomes the volume of humans. For the artist, it's such an A1 experience.
Really?
It's such an A1 experience. Because like when you play a corporate gig, you are not the reason why people are at the gig.
Yes, they're there for the gig. You're the support function.
Yes, exactly. You're support. Kisha Maliza, whatever, whether it was we were giving praises and the dinner you were being given now. Pia mnaweza enjoy msanii, right? So that gig is not, it doesn't feel the same as people who came for you, right?
Okay.
Like in December, we landed our programming where like this thing starts at 12 and the second stage, because now we have 2 stages at the festival. The electronic music stage starts at 12 and the branch and everything, and the live stage starts at 2. And we're like, you need to be there before 2 because this hot artist of yours, your hottest artist, they're playing at 2 p.m. Let's go. And watching people responding to that and being there on time. That was so, I can't even say, it feels really, really good for the artist to know that, yeah, my people are riding for me and they arrive on time and they're here for the show.
Nice.
And then we're also seeing from the merchandise side that, you know, people are buying merchandise. And like I'm saying, there's a vinyl buying culture that's come back, you know. And so this is a music consumer who is actually consuming music, and it's a Kenya first music consumer.
Interesting.
In its variety. So whether you're speaking, I don't know, hip hop or urban tone or gang or R&B, but there's a very strong Kenya driver. And we've seen, I mean, at the festival, we've seen, you know, phases of, you know, when the audience was like, yeah, Kenya, but they were Nigeria first, or yeah, Kenya, but there was a bongo component. And now we really see it's like, it's Kenya first. And then everybody else can be added to us. But we want to see ourselves. We want to hear ourselves. It's really powerful.
The confidence there that wasn't there before?
I think so. And maybe the other thing is also the volume of work.
Yes.
This is the other thing. On the artist side, there's now much more volume of work than when we were starting.
Yeah.
Because I actually remember that was one of our first crises at Blankets. Maybe in our second year in Hillcrest. And we were like, guys, we've pretty much played everybody who is in the scene at least 3 times.
Wow.
So what do we do for programming? How do we make sure that people still keep coming back to this thing? How doesn't the thing feel like stale? And that is when we started to actually import artists. That was part of the gap we were plugging.
Okay.
To just give the scene, the Kenyan scene, like time to like regenerate, you know. So if you've played, we give you enough time to like go back to studio, whatever, and you have new records. And so by the time you're playing again, there's a new project that you're bringing, right? So then the consumer is not bored. Now there's volume of work, you know, it's
volume
like volume and depth of work, right? So now it's like, okay, last year you played Savara and this year you already have like a new project. So are we playing you again or not? You know what I mean? So the volume of the speed of regeneration, the volume of the music, the volume of the artists, and everybody is listening to everything. I think there's less barriers now. Like the same person who's listening to some really advanced, smooth R&B is also like bumping to urban tone.
Nice.
So it's become easier to put things together, you know, because a good festival programming should really feel like a good buffet.
Yes.
So there's a little bit of everything for everybody. But if you eat all these things, they're not clashing.
Yeah.
You've worked in hospitality. You know exactly that they're complementary to each
other.
These ideas are complementary. Yeah. And you can also just decide, I'm going to do 2 or 3 on this stage, and then I'm going to do 2 or 3 on the other stage. You know, even the idea of being able to build another stage so that it can, because then it's a specialist stage at the festival. So this is electronic music.
Yes.
So then you can be like, right, I want to watch these 3 bands, and then I want to catch these 4 DJs. Okay. And then I want to do some shopping, and that's my blanket stay.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So a user who is now
how are those partnerships coming along? Because you now have hospitality partners, you have drinks partners, you have how's that journey?
Fungueni kibeti bwana.
Kila mtu afungue.
Sponsor fungueni kibeti. Sponsor fungua kibeti bwana.
That's the tough part.
That's the tough part. Because even after 16 years, I mean, you'd really think that this should be by now, like it is overtly demonstrable.
Yes.
Overtly demonstrable.
Success-wise, yes.
Yeah, but also like, okay, now mute blankets, right? Just assume it was not blankets. There's a value proposition, there's a user, there's a clear business case.
Yes.
So it should have reduced the mountain that we have to climb.
Agreed.
So when we find ourselves still climbing mountains, we're like, bro, why?
Would you say that the climbing of the mountain is a lack of understanding of the opportunity from the corporate?
It could be.
Yeah.
It could be. I mean, I definitely don't want to speak in blank, because there are some who are really like, they get it and they see it and they participate at the level that makes sense for them, and they're locked in. But then there's folks who you're like, this should be an automatic sell for you. And they're like, it's not. Then you see them in other things, after they're kind of like, yeah, music is not really our priority. Then you see them in other things and you know how much money they've put into those other things. And you're like, first and foremost, also no entitlement. You put your money where you want to put your money. It's your money.
True.
As a sponsor, it's your money and it's your vision and it's your understanding. What would be helpful for us is if then there was that kind of like proper feedback about why this is not a good fit, then, is that something that we need to improve or to adjust? Or is that a thing that you as a sponsor need to improve or adjust in terms of your understanding or your expectations of the scene? But having said that, I can also see that there has been real growth over the years in that space, right? Like more corporates and also more like different types of corporates. Hey, like in December, we had like a dental practice that wanted to run an activation at the festival.
Interesting.
And it's like, oh yeah, it's true. Yeah. Everybody smiles. That's all you do at the festival. You're smiling and laughing. Yeah, that would be a great place to kind of run a smile campaign, right? So that's happening. Then we also have like this Pan-African corporates, folks like Spotify or folks like YouTube, who again are they're very in the center of the culture.
Yes.
And them being like, okay, yeah, we want to enter and want to participate in this kind of ways. And that's quite cool, because then when you're speaking to that sponsor, they're really meeting us at the level of Blankets, which is a Pan-African, festival that has, roots in Uganda and in Rwanda and, has the ability to move into other territories in Africa. So there's something also kind of exciting about finding sponsors who are thinking kind of at that level.
Wow. So let's wrap up with the future.
Aha!
What are the next 15 to 16 years looking like for Blankets? Where do you want to put on your, which I know is not a problem for you, but put on your dreamer hat again and let's see where we're going. Where are you taking us?
To be honest, right now I've reached up to 20 years. That's where I've seen.
Where are we?
And you're even going to start to see it this year. Tunaenda Maju.
Oh, really?
I am not at liberty to give you all the information,
Fair enough.
But I'd like to put you all on notice. Mtafute visa. This year tunaenda Maju.
Okay.
Like Maju ya ukweli.
Si ile. Sikuvuka boda.
Na. Tunaenda Maju. Mtaingia kwa ndege. We will be flying for some hours.
Excellent.
So I see some of those properties developing, because really we have an East African diaspora.
Excellent.
The space for Blankets and Wine to grow is in the East African diaspora. And when I say the East African diaspora, you have a big East African diaspora in places like South Africa, but you also have a big diaspora in places like England, in places like the States.
Yes.
So I see that there's Dubai.
Yes.
Right. So I see it's our vision that the festival would find its natural partners and alignments in spaces where it can serve diaspora.
Yeah. Because
it was always our ambition to export Kenyan music and to really make space for ourselves on a global, on a global market.
Wow.
So that's a thing that I see. And then I definitely see more specialist stages, right? So this year we will not be adding another stage. We will be cleaning out and refining the offering of the electronic stage, just getting it to a really high standard.
Yes.
It's already doing really well, but I think, it's a creative project. There's always room to tinker. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's kind of like a meal. You can always add something to make them choosy, really. Yeah.
Wow.
But once that's, sort of taken off, we really want to add the space for some of the more alternative music that doesn't sit naturally on the current configuration of the live stage and wouldn't sit naturally on the electronic stage. So I see us bringing in another stage there. And, just there's a development of like the digital properties, like a blankets radio, a thing that allows people to come into discovery of music fairly early. So... And yeah, we have a 20-year celebration that we've said to think about now. Like, it feels far, but it's not actually. It's 3-4 years away.
Excellent.
So thinking about what does it look like to be celebrating this icon at 20? What does that look like? What does the media around that look like? And what does the lead up to that? And I think the final piece for us is really the connection of blankets to the tourism sector.
Yes.
Because now the truth is, there's no reason why we are not importing South Africans into Kenya.
To come for blankets.
To come for blankets, but also to enjoy what's happening in the house scene in Kenya. The house scene in Kenya is A1. It's like, if you're going to go to the Amsterdams or to the Brussels to experience some of those big, house music festivals, just come to Kenya. And so to really do that connection and move folks out of Uganda, out of Rwanda, out of South Africa, to come here very purposefully for the festival and to enjoy what exists in this music ecosystem. So, tuko na kazi manzi.
This has been fabulous, and our hour has gone by like that, and I've loved it. First of all, allow me to just give you your flowers when I'm sitting with you. You've done a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
You make me so proud.
Thank you so much.
I sit down and look at something that you're watching from a distance.
Yeah.
And because music and festivals were an integral part of my early career.
Absolutely.
I was always keen to see what's evolving to.
Exactly.
And the scene blows me away.
Yeah.
And a lot of that sits on your shoulders.
Yeah.
Because you've nurtured this thing from nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I first met you, you're a young girl.
Yeah.
Now you're a mother.
Mama somebody.
Mama somebody, and it's great.
Yeah.
But congratulations.
Thank you so much,
and
Leonard.
very well done.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of episode 16 of the AfriCAN Do podcast. Really fabulous guest, an excellent conversation.
Thank you.
Opened our eyes to a lot that's happening in the scene, and long may it continue.
Long may it continue. Long may we
In fact, that link to tourism, I hope someone at Magical Kenya is listening and will take you up on it and start to intentionally curate this.
Absolutely.
This
experience. Yeah. We can drive people to Kenya using the arts. Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, and look forward to seeing you again in episode 17. Thank you.